guys, thanks for tuning in to another broadcast. Today I want to talk about Iron Man number 593, or the issue where Michael Bendis was dragged kicking and screaming to honor Tony Stark's legacy. So before I start out with this quick take here for you guys, just want to know that last time there was like a trollish guy who showed up and he was like, yeah, you don't even bring any energy to the table when you're reviewing these comic books like this. And the reason why that I speak a little more softly is because my wife has to get up really early in the morning, and she's got to go to work. She has to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I live in a very small apartment, and I don't want to be too animated and wake her up and disturb her sleep. So if I talk a little bit more softly during some of these quick take reviews, that's pretty much the reason why. Anyway, like I said, I wanted to cover Iron Man number 593, give you a quick rundown, just my thoughts. So for those of you who didn't know, again, this review is a little bit late, but Tony Stark is missing. So the pseudo-dead, unconscious Tony Stark, someone has kidnapped him. He looks a little bit like Rob Zombie to me. And this starts off what will essentially be an ongoing mystery about where he is. So the issue starts off, and Friday, says that it's very frustrating that they can't figure out what's going on with Tony Stark. And but then she gets into something interesting. She talks about Riri Williams, and she says, and I quote, Miss Riri Williams has excelled in her new chosen role as Ironheart. We have offered her a home at Stark International, but she has not told us her future plans. Her personality type and some of her bolder choices concern me, but she has remained successful in spite of some calculable odds. The artificial intelligence running her armor is the downloaded id and consciousness of Tony Stark himself. Tony's ego, unchecked by a physical body, has started to show some glitches, but I have my eye on it. So right now, Friday, Michael Bendis is speaking through Friday, and he kind of tells the audience exactly what we know, that there was really no reason for Riri Williams to take over the mantle of Tony Stark. She was chosen. She was the chosen one. Michael Bendis wanted to kill Tony Stark and get him over with for at least an extended amount of time, and I think Legacy kind of threw a wrench in his plans. So then he acknowledges that Riri has all these problems. So again, this is someone that Tony's never really even met. If you go back to her origins, not the one where she is psychotic and obsesses over him since she was a kindergartner, but when he met her after she essentially stole MIT technology to make her own Stark suit and reverse engineer it in her college dorm, he didn't really know her, and he just chose her even though she was this big question mark. And now, although she becomes a dictator and briefly takes over countries like Latveria, she's still offered a place in this guy's home, access to his most treasured secrets, even though she's a teenager. So nothing to warrant any of this, but yet still, there's this annual expo, science fair contest, and Tony Stark's mother takes the stage to introduce everybody to Ironheart. So again, this is where she, the audience, of course, goes crazy for her, and she says, she's like, oh, my first applause. And AI Tony is like, don't let it go to your head, Riri. This is the same woman who, in Marvel Generations, was already told, in this in the future, that she's going to be, the greatest woman in the entire galaxy, or something along those lines, by older Tony Stark. So, if telling her that she's the key to the universe didn't inflate her ego, I don't think a few applause is going to really do too much. But and we could already go back to all the different selfie covers and stuff like that. She's been told that she's the greatest thing since sliced bread, since she was first introduced. And I've been covering Riri since before the series even relaunched. This is back even before May 2016. But when she first debuted her her MIT Tony Stark armor, and told the school officials, "I think I'm done with school," after stealing their equipment, mind you. Not the most heroic thing in the world. People were still looking for Tony Stark back then. He had disappeared before. But anyway, so this is the mystery that's Riri's going to solve this mystery along with MJ and Tony's mom and Friday. They're going to figure out what's going on. But one of these other things that I noticed about the women in Bendis's books, they either have this sort of like wooden, creepy, doll eyes, confused face when people are confronting them, or they have this sort of triumphant, like women of the world, masters of the universe sort of look. They kind of like swing like a pendulum between those two emotions, just like utterly confused and just total and complete confidence in their abilities. There's not much in between. Again, here's the look, the like mouths agape, gasping, confused eyes, these kind of like soulless eyes. I don't, whoever's been drawing this book, I should probably check, but the art doesn't really impress me all that much on this book. But yeah, it's just like the weirdest thing is they're just completely confused and befuddled, or they have this like look like, nobody's as smart as they are because they got girl power. So again, people are wondering where Tony went, and we have this image of this character who's very weak. Crawls. It just says elsewhere in the comic. You don't know who exactly it is, if it's actually Tony, if it's not. It crawls into the armor and is weak and essentially crawls into the fetal position. So, I don't know. You could take your bets. It just feels to me like it would be Tony's AI. Got sick of being AI, wanted to do the Pinocchio thing, become the real deal. Maybe he kidnapped, he found a way to create a clone of Tony Stark, insert his consciousness into the body, and now it's like this sort of like brand new Tony in a body, or something along those lines. I don't know if that's true or not, but I could see that being the case. So it's like then you might even have some sort of like showdown between AI Tony newborn, new body versus the older AI, and they gotta fight one another. Something along those lines. I don't know. It just seems like that's where it's going. And yeah, if you watch the previews, who knows if Riri and the gang and maybe the original Tony are all teaming up against evil AI Tony who took his armor. It used to be like corrupt businessmen, and now it's himself. I don't know. We'll see if Bendis goes that route, but like I said before, the thing with Marvel Legacy is they act like it's something new, and it really isn't. It's the same exact teams on everything. They're just continuing on the trajectory as they were before for the most part. Legacy is almost sort of an obstacle that's in their way, that was put there by fan backlash. So they're just like, okay, we got to figure out how to essentially do what we wanted to do with Riri from the get-go, which is make her the key to the universe. And these darn fans have sidetracked us for a little while, so let's placate them, let's give them a little something, but ultimately this is where we're going. So, I don't know. Again, this is just a quick take. Just wanted to give you guys something. Like I said before, if I don't have as much energy in some of these, it's mainly because my wife is sleeping. She goes to bed early because she has to get up very early. The other thing is that I'm doing these after a very long day of work. So, you know, anyone who followed the news today knows that there was that terror attack in Manhattan. So I had a very long day, and this is sort of like me, you know, wanting to give you guys something to take your mind off the, you know, some more serious news of the day. I've had people in the comments section before are just like, why are you reading comic books when there's like serious things going on in the world like terror attacks? And it's like, you know, the world doesn't come to an end because there's a terror attack. I mean, that's exactly what terrorists would want to do. So, you know, I could be serious. I could write on terror attacks at work. I could call my family members who live in Manhattan and ask if they're okay. And when I find out that they're okay and they're going to continue doing their thing, then I can continue doing my thing. So anyway, so that's that. Sorry I haven't given out a Doug Prize in a little bit. I wanted to do one in one of my regular reviews, my scripted reviews. So I'll try and get to that in the near future. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning into the live streams. Thanks for everyone who's donated on Patreon. Everyone in the comments section. Oh, here's the other thing real quick before I go for the comments section. So I think what I'm going to do, there's often a lot of trollish remarks, and I'm going to just stop responding to them. Even to some of the people that are like critical, I just have so much time, and I'm going to allot them to people that are positive. And you know, if someone, I might on occasion respond to someone if they have like a legit criticism and they're tactful, but people that just come to me with just these like snarky responses, or they're just like pompous, you know, doofuses, I'm not going to do that. But here's the thing, if you are a Patreon member, I want to do something where it's like the Patreon member throws the challenge flag, you know, in like football. So if I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll mention it on Patreon. But like if you respond to somebody who has a criticism of one of my videos and you just put like Patreon challenge flag, you know, I know pretty much who my Patreon members are, but I could always cross check and be like, okay, this is Patreon. Or maybe if you're also like a very regular subscriber, but I think for now I'll stick to the Patreon challenge. If you throw a Patreon challenge flag against some people, then I will respond. If you feel as though like, hey, this is something I think Doug needs to address because it wasn't artfully or eloquently addressed in his review, then it's like, okay, you know, like I said, I only have so much time. Some of these people in the comment section are trolls. Some of them are serious, but they, you know, for long story short, they want me to get into a back and forth with them for like an hour, 2 hours, and I really don't have the time to do that. So, you know, they'll do this rapid fire thing where they ask me like 5 questions in a row, and I could spend like the next 45 minutes typing out a response to that. I can't do that for everybody's comments. So I don't know. The channel's growing. I'm very happy with that, but with the growth, you know, I have to better utilize my time. So hopefully the Patreon challenge flags will help that, and me just being more judicial in who I respond to will help that as well, because I want to be able to get content out to you guys, and I don't want to waste time. I want to be as efficient as possible. So anyway, again, thanks to everybody who's taken part in these videos, and I'll try and get another scripted review out to you guys as soon as possible. New comics come out tomorrow. I'll buy them, I'll read them, and if I get a chance, I will you know, get a video up as soon as possible. So anyway, again, thanks again, and I'll see you guys later.